I just wanted you to take a minute to appreciate my hair with me. I haven't uploaded the other video because I feel like this one is more important. Because that one's a happy, oh my gosh, my child, my children type video, and that's nice. But Dr. Raquel Martin has said that her children are not her life. I need to put my phone on airplane mode. Give me a sec. Her children are not her life. They're just a planet. Like, how does she phrase it? My children are not my entire life. They're like a planet orbiting in my universe. And I want to start from there and then veer off. I had a very interesting conversation with a girlfriend who's also a feminist this morning. And as I said in the previous video, which I might just upload it first, I have become a more radicalized feminist because of the world around me. What does that mean? I have been in a long-term relationship where I thought it was going to wind up one way, like we were going to spend the rest of our lives together. It didn't happen. I have grieved the end of that relationship. I have gone back to therapy to deal with that because it's quite the transition. And I mean, our monies were tied. I'd been with him over 11 years. And as my housemate correctly phrased it, we were together for 8 years. And then there was a 5-year break, but he was my friend. And ladies, you know what that means. Very often for us, it means you stay loyal to this person because it still feels like cheating when you're with someone else. At least for me. Not speaking for everyone. Women are not, that word that so many of us hate, a monolith. We are not like one movement. We are not all the same. Which leads me to the next interesting confession. Not all men are the same either. I am enjoying my hair. So if you see me whipping it extra, shaking my head, it's because I waited years to have a fringe, like to have my hair at this length. Fine, I had it in an afro, but it wouldn't fall. For my hair to be long enough to fall and literally cover my eyes, leave me to enjoy this moment. Also, I need to get a soft tissue because my nose is doing the thing. I'm back with a dry nose. So this is the thing that happened today. I had a conversation. It was very rich. Then I had another conversation, and then I had another conversation, and then I had another conversation. And this is drawn out of the fact that someone asked me recently, "Are you a life coach?" I said, I have a problem with that title, and I told my therapist that today. I have a problem with that title because who has a manual on life? Who am I to tell you how to live your life? What I can do is offer you advice around how to spend a little better if I have a hold on my own spending and saving, and I've made some mistakes that I can see you making or about to make. Yeah. There's this thing we do, then I can call myself a financial coach. Let me finish thoughts when I start them. Because I keep assuming that I can feed you semi-processed thoughts and you understand what I mean. It's somewhat ADHD, somewhat this feels like I'm talking to a friend, and I do this as like chair therapy, and it's incredible. So you get used to assuming the other person on the other end, the one you're looking at, is the person you're talking to and not an entire audience on the internet. I'm in a very reflective space today because I had my final therapy session for the year, and my therapist clapped for me. And this time, it wasn't just, oh, this far we have come. It was a legit, Sharon, you've really grown. Sharon, you've changed. Sharon, I can see you putting yourself out there and embracing and trying in spite of everything that life has dealt you and refusing to stay down. One of the things I told my therapist today is, actually, I think I told a friend, was it yesterday? I used to hear people say, I know I am a strong person, or and stuff like that. One of the things I now literally brag about is that I know I am strong, and it's not even humble brag. I know. I am an incredibly strong person. I have weathered some serious storms from childhood, through my teenage years, into my adulthood. And now that explains to me why I have such a serious problem with someone who's been telling me that the insinuation has been, it's a joke he makes. And men, I don't think men, anyway, let me not make a hasty generalization, but still my channel, still my platform. I've noticed that men really like to poke the bear. Really, 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 I almost fell, like to poke the bear. And I learned from my business coach, who is a man, pretty much maybe the only man I trust in this world. And even then, not entirely, because just you never know. That's not a risk I can take. As Trevor Noah said, Black women, we can't afford to mess around and find out. We really can't, because you're dealing with men, and as someone who has survived that, you never know where your next predator is. And statistically, he's usually someone you're very close to. And I don't mean close just proximity, that is one factor. But I also mean proximity, friend, family. So I remember when I was talking to my friend this morning and we were just talking about being women. I just had toast, had a craving for bread. I got bread on my way here because I took a break from my house for 2 nights, and it's been very refreshing. And I got gifted chocolate. I love gifts. I didn't peg myself as a gift girl, but then I've been getting these gifts, and it's not really from random people, it's from a few special people, and they make me so happy. Me and this person, I really struggle to call men friends. Me and this associate, we have some similarities, and we make jokes about being like Dexter the serial killer, and how we like to collect trophies. So there's a time I wore something of his because it was cold out and I needed a jacket, and even without me asking, he gave me a jacket, and I saw the hesitation, and I went like, trophy? He was like, yeah. I was like, oh, I can give it back. And I even joked with my housemate today because he was laughing. I was ranting on a call and he just kept laughing because now he's just used to my personality. Finally, it has sunk in. He has accepted and moved on. And that's another thing I just love about being around Black people. They just take you as you are, right? Not everyone. We're not a monolith, but yeah. And so when while I was ranting, I was complaining about Christian women. I was like, it's always the Christian women, it's always the Christians, it's always the religious people, it's always the ones who are making these promises and not keeping them. And someone challenged me tonight and was like, okay, so what's your, it's easy to judge. I'm like, no. Yes, it is easy to judge, but no, I'm not judging. I am calling out people who are very quick to talk about this faith they espouse and do not live up to. Then just shut up about the Christianity. Some of us don't lead with that. We don't lead with Christianity because we know we are such a mess, and because we think of Christianity as this really high standard. We don't like to tell people we identify as Christians in case we do something that will make them associate Christianity with us. And maybe we were the start of their villain era, or we are the reason they have a certain insecurity, etc. One of the things I was grieving in therapy today because I did cry a little bit, was the realization that I've been saying for the longest time that I had a great childhood and I really did not. And even as I say that, like, it's so hard to say because, again, when I started by mentioning this is an incomplete thought I'm completing, which tells you I am well rested, like I had not been sleeping well. So I got something out of my head. I finished paying off a certain loan that was bothering me, and now I'm good for now. Um, and this person has made this joke before. And for me, when someone jokes about something or tries to poke fun at me about something, I look at them as a child. And then I ask myself, what is that person's inner child trying to do? As someone who's done inner child healing, I have a lot of empathy for even bullies. Empathy does not mean I excuse their behavior. I just try and understand it. Now you understand why I say, well, I'm like Sherlock Holmes. I also get that. I get the empathizing with a serial killer because most serial killers went through horrible things in their childhood. And yes, you're going to tell me it's choice. You could choose to join the police force and the CSI. One of my daughters, my baby, my youngest actually said she wants to be an investigator and she wants to go undercover. And I was like, what? That's one of like the most dangerous jobs. Are you sure that's what you want to do? And I tried to talk to her like an adult because that's definitely what I would tell my 24-year-old if she told me she wants to be a crime scene investigator. Because I asked her, so what crimes do you want to investigate? Like people who hurt children, or people who are doing a war on drugs, or people who like what sort of crime like what sort of investigation undercover type thing do you want to do? I didn't want to mention human trafficking because that's not a conversation I'm ready to have with my 10-year-old yet, because we just recently, I guess a few weeks ago, had a conversation about sex, and she had it with her mom first because I'm only just like the co-parent. I'm like the secondary parent and her mom is the primary parent. So like we talked about heroes, we talked about all these things. Why am I doing this? It's because I know parenting takes a village and I love children. I'm a child free person by choice, but I love children. I'm also not entirely sure that it's by choice because um, I have made attempts to get pregnant this year and they haven't worked out. Now, granted, I also believe in energy, the universe, and God. And I believe when, as a woman, you're with someone and then at the early stages and you're thinking of having a kid with them, and then you have this moment of doubt, and then you put out a prayer to God and you go like, I really don't want to be pregnant anymore. I honestly believe that that prayer can and is sometimes answered. Um, so yeah, that's sort of happened twice this year. Um, and especially because one of the prayers that my business coach taught me was reveal me to him and him to me. That was back in 20, was it 2021 or 2020 when I was trying to figure things. I think it was 20, no, it wasn't during COVID. Can't have been during COVID. 2019, I don't know. Must have been 2019 because the coaching started in 2018 when I left formal employment to be self-employed. And you have these, he told me it's going to come down to 2 or 3 guys, but ideally two. And he knew the guys I'd been hanging out with, he knew the guys I was interested in, he knew what I found interesting, he knows my childhood trauma, he knows my mother, he knows a lot about my family, he's met some of my family, I know his wife, she and I are a lot alike. Like it was oh wow, a lot alike. She's not a wild thing like me, she's a proper Christian woman. So he's older, he's wiser, the things he knows. I believe in getting mentorship and advice about everything. And I remember how I started talking to this couple was I told them him because I know him through my mom, right? I told him if them I told them if I don't talk to you guys and I don't hang out with people who are happily married, I don't believe there are any happy marriages. I personally don't. But and so if I don't hang out with people who seem to be genuinely happily married, because I'm assuming you guys are happy, like unless you're really good at faking it, sometimes I can sense things. then yeah, I'll not do the marriage thing. I'll just do the casual guy here and there, and then every year just clean him out, and then do 5 years of celibacy, and then pick another one, and then I have a cycle. It's familiar. So he was doing the business coaching, but he was teaching me some very valuable lessons. We are 15 minutes in. The thing I am struggling to say is today it's hit me, and it's been hitting me on layers and levels with varying intensities, how differently life shapes you from birth onwards. When I spoke with this lady today, one of the things that we discussed in depth was toxic work environments. And then I finished off the evening with another conversation with a friend, a good friend, about toxic work environments. And in between there, with both women, we also talked about um, family. And one of the things I told my therapist today, it really does go back to childhood, doesn't it? Like all of it, everything, behavior, addiction, personality, thought processes, value systems, all the way, everything to the core of who you are. Even as I mentioned, inner child healing. The thing the gentleman said, or the man said, that triggers me is the insinuation is you can't really capture it well in English, but the insinuation in from Swahili is, "Oh, you're a rich kid." And these two guys say that to me a lot because they grew up on the east side. Like essentially they didn't have access to the resources I had. They didn't have access to the opportunities I had. And so I feel the need to justify growing up with as much as I did to them when with them, and especially when they poke fun at stuff like that. Then I noticed it's made me uncomfortable once or twice or thrice before. And then I told one of these guys. And then why I keep saying men are children is when I listened to this man speak, it took me back to someone who used to bully me when I was 12, or some guys I got into fights with at the ages of 11 and 12. Like I at that period in my life, I was fighting quite a bit with boys. And the thing I noticed was that it was because they were needlessly aggressive. They found me walking somewhere, pushed me out of the way, and I talked back. And they came up to my face, and I was like, look, if you're going to throw a punch, throw a punch. Like, do it and make sure you mean it. And I couldn't stand them. One of them was just a bully who liked bullying. Again, in my 11, 12-year old mind, I'm seated there with my chair, and then he wants to trip me over, and then I get into trouble, and then I go stand in front of the class, and then I'm in trouble. And just those kids who are just terrible, like just terrible children. Now I know that the children who wind up terrible and terrorizing others are likely terrorized. Unfortunate for him. Why I refuse to excuse it is because I also went through a fair amount of getting terrorized by children at my age. I mean, at that age, I don't recall taking it out on other kids. I don't recall bullying people. The only people I bullied were people who bullied me. Because then I realized like the crying wasn't helping. I think there was a time I was told to stand in the front of the class and I cried, and I was so embarrassed because everyone could see me crying. And I wasn't at fault, and I was like, how do I wind up in trouble with a teacher and yet I didn't make any mistakes? And something in me snapped. I remember I was in class 5. I remember where that boy sat. I still remember his stupid face. Stupid face because it's very triggering for me to talk about bullies because I know how they shape you. I know how they mess you up. I know how they make you feel small and insignificant. So even in my adulthood, I don't like bullies. And if anyone comes up to me, I match energy. So if I'm minding my business and you for some reason feel like I'm in your way, like how someone's wife decided to come knocking on my door and accuse me of meddling in her marriage. She called me a home wrecker. She had done a good job of wrecking her own home, but she needed to put the blame somewhere. So why not blame the tall, skinny girl who had engaged in business with her husband? And there was a contract. I was paying for services. And so she shows up at my door, and I tell my friend, okay, let me end this call. And she's like, oh, no, you finish. So she says that from outside. And I'm like, you know what? This was supposed to be a lengthy conversation. I was just chilling, minding my Friday evening. So I continue on the call for over 30 minutes. And then when I'm finally done, is when she's like, I hope you're happy, blah, 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 blah. And part of the conversation I was having had to do with her. Because I also mentioned to this person, oh, so and so's wife is actually now at my door. And she got upset and she kept pointing at me. And at some point I told her, so and so, you're in my house. And I looked at a hammer that I'd placed somewhere, and I was for sure just going to take that hammer either to her fingers or her toes, because I thought I just need to inflict enough pain for her to feel fear, for her to leave my house. Because you see, now it was going to be self-defense. This is how I am, by the way. I know I've heard it said, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth makes the whole world blind, and I don't know what the other one is. Toothless, I don't know. Rendered unable to chew food, solid food. But I don't know, and quite frankly, I don't care. I am in my season for matching energy, and I've told people, if I want you to stop doing something and you do it anyway, then I'll be forced to do something to defend myself. Because I don't believe that Christianity makes me a doormat for people to just walk on. I am not Jesus. I've said this time and time again. Why am I leading with that? Very few girls are taught this. You know where I learned the violence from? My grandfather, my late grandfather, because the first time children came to the door to bother me and, like, call her out so that we can deal with her our way, he came out with a Maasai sword, like a machete, and he threatened to chop off their limbs. Now, there are people who are going to argue that that is incredibly inappropriate. When I consider that there are children who've harmed themselves or unalived themselves because of a bully, sometimes I think bullies need to be taught to pick someone their own size, because so many of them go through the system. And then how does this tie into the conversation I was having? Very few of us girls are taught to defend ourselves. Very few of us know what it means to have boundaries and how to enforce them and to do it consistently. And for me, I'm not going to be here consistently setting boundaries with someone who won't listen the first 2 times if you're an adult. Because if I deal with children and I only need to tell them something maybe twice, who are you, a 32, 7, 46, 54-year-old man, to be running circles around my head rent-free? Respect goes both ways in my world. You respect my time, I respect yours. Respect my space, I respect yours. We match energy. If I am honest and vulnerable with you and you abuse that, I will not give you a second chance, because I've struggled with my mental health. That's not a risk I can afford to take. I do still struggle with my mental health. Secondly, people pay me per hour for my time. So if I'm going to take time with something that is important to me and also important to you, because it also has to be important to me first. The lesson is really to love yourself. It's love others as you love yourself. So you have to love yourself first, because very many of us as women, the way we behave and the way we go about life, moving around like we need to apologize for taking up space, is because we have really decentralized ourselves. We know how to give to others, we don't know how to give to ourselves. Our identity is tied in being called Mrs. or Mama, so and so, or an aunt too. Ask yourself, who are you when you're not someone's wife? Because men die. Who are you when you're not this child's mother? who are you when you're not helping people? That was a hard one for me to answer, because that savior complex, it runs deep. Because it was normalized for me from childhood that women work hard and fall on their swords for the benefit of everyone else. Ironically, that is not even a thing that Christianity teaches. Men should be falling on their swords. Islam teaches the same, because it is men who are called to, Christian men, who are called to love their wives as Christ loved the church and gave his life for it. How many life-giving men do you know? And then let's talk about women. From childhood, remember how old you are when your aunt or your mother first gave you a dirty look for sitting with your legs apart, or when your skirt went up too high. Remember how old you are. Remember the shame and guilt you felt then, and the next time she either threw something or made a stern face and then put her legs together to signal to you, put your legs together, because there was a boy or a man in the room. God forbid she actually spoke up and said, "Can you sit properly? You're a girl." I never hear boys being told this. And I remember even my male friend telling me he's noticed that little boys would be allowed to pee on a tree and show off their little thingies, and everyone would be laughing, especially the women saying, "Boys will be boys." But a girl had to be hidden off somewhere. So you wonder why women feel so ashamed of their reproductive organs, other than when they're used to bring forth life. You wonder why girls and women are so embarrassed by their period and getting period stains, which I started my period at the age of 14, now 36, with 3 fibroids. My period is so heavy. You've seen it on my Instagram. I literally have to use pads that are used by older people, women and men, who have urinary incontinence. It is this close to becoming a diaper. Why do I share this openly? Because these are just conversations I think that we should be having. I'm a public health official. If people don't see in me realness and humanity that they can connect with, what is it for? What is this curated life for, really? Who are you doing this for? This making sure your makeup is touched up every single time you leave the house. You can't even go to the shop without it. Women, who taught us this? To set ourselves on fire, as Jacinta says, to keep others warm, because that's what codependency is. And as a recovering codependent person, in fact, I refuse to claim that. You know, when people say I'm an alcoholic and you've been clean for 20 years, I'm like, no, I will not carry that tag. I will not carry that tag, especially not for that long, because who I am now and who I was younger, nowadays I just tell people no. Just, as the book says, no. And no is a full statement. So women, do not even be surprised when, do you know, I've met women in their 50s, 40s who have given birth to up to 4 or 5 children, and they don't know that the hole that the chucks your pee and your period are different. That makes me incredibly sad, because the woman who taught me to take a mirror and look at myself, to look at my outer lips and my inner lips, my labia majora, minora, find out where the clitoris is, and to read about it, and what are they called? Vagina monologues and all that stuff, was an older woman from church. Her tribe is matriarchal, though she's Kikuyu, but an older woman. And that's why my mom made it a point to introduce me to like many different women, so that whatever lessons fell through the cracks I would get from people that she trusted. And so I sit here with this lady friend, actually both lady friends, and I'm analyzing everything, including these conversations we're having about masculine energy and feminine energy.
And I'm like, it's giving patriarchy. Who said feminine energy is just multiplying? I mean, I think it's nice that when a sperm goes into my body, it can produce a baby. But I would like an identity outside of that in case I'm not able to have a baby, because then you have us as women grieving when we go through hysterectomies, which I'm planning to go through, because our identity is so tightly knit in giving life through birth, not mentorship, not adoption, not building businesses that are. Being a woman is giving birth, it's having a uterus. And even when we are in our 40s and 50s, we struggle with the idea of letting go of a uterus, of a fallopian tube, of an ovary, even when it is riddled with cysts, because that's part of who I am. Even when the cysts are making you painfully miserable. And like one of the things I've sat and thought about is when I grieved the fact that I didn't get pregnant, was I really grieving as Sharon, or was it the hearing my mother's voice in my head asking, what are you using your money for and you don't have children? And all the other friends, clients, women I've met who've heard this said to them. It's like your money is only valuable when it's given to someone. How many of us have gotten children as a retirement plan because we know the romantic partners we have, we do not trust? We don't trust them with our own children. We don't trust them with our bodies, because we every woman I know knows at least one person who, or has heard of at least one person who got cervical cancer in their matrimonial home, like after they got married, and they got married a virgin, or after they'd only had sex with one other person. Well, maybe that one person had had sex with multiple people, but you get my drift. If you're getting HPV and you're having sex with one person long term, my doctor friend has told me it's an STI, cervical cancer, when under certain circumstances. Now, this is also me owning up to the fact that, like, if I were to discover that I had HPV, I know where I can trace it back to. Because this isn't something that just because you use condoms, you're protected from. But then when I hear a woman waited for 30 years and then got it in her marriage, whether it's HPV or HIV or chlamydia or gonorrhea or whatever the heck else, crabs, it makes me sick and sad. It just does. And especially because I'm reading a book that tells me, and this isn't just a book saying, research is literally coming out of like Stanford and Harvard showing that suppressed anger is killing Black women. What are Black women if not caregivers concerned with everyone's health and well being from childhood, parenting siblings, parentified children? We are called in the US fast. We, adultified. Beyonce's daughter cannot wear a dress without sleeves, without people going like, is that age appropriate? She's a child. If you don't look at her and see a child, the problem is with you. The same way, our mothers, our aunties did not model for us that if the uncle will look at your thighs at the age of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way to 17 and 18 and 19. Me, as long as you have the word teen in it, like, my God, why are you looking at this girl? If your uncle, father, stepfather, brother, cousin, whoever, you're warning the child about this person instead of telling the person to leave your home, then there's something fundamentally wrong with us. Because I've even heard men say, and women, that it was because our mothers knew the dark side of men. Some of our mothers and grandmothers, the sex they've had in marriage has been matrimonial rape, and they can't tell us. They can't tell us we're the result of rape. How does your mother tell you your father is a rapist? It's happened a couple of times. She's normalized it. It's a tap on the shoulder, and if she resists, he pins her down. She can't scream. There are kids in the next room. It is therefore no wonder that Apondi says mothers-in-law are like form twos. Now, this I have to use a Kenyan context story. You go to high school, the first year is, you're in form one, there's form two, three, and four. And when the form twos have finally left form one to go to form two, there's this sense of we are now not the little ones, we are now not the babies of high school, we are kind of grown, we've come into ourselves. So they treat the ones who've just come in terribly. Isn't that what mothers-in-law do to their daughters-in-law very often? Isn't that what stepmothers do to children who come in with their romantic partners? And that's not for all of them. As I said, we are not a monolith. It's not all stepmoms who are terrible. My stepmom is one of the dopest people I have ever met. And I still it makes me wonder. But I also don't wonder too much, because if your child is the result of something you didn't consent to, try as you will, it's going to be difficult to love this child. Not excusing the behavior, explaining it, so that you understand where some of this resentment from our own mothers comes from. It's especially when you're the daughter that her husband is listening to, and yet he doesn't listen to her. So there's the element of competition. Add to that no therapy, no sense of self-awareness, or very little. Spiritual bypassing, that is, we leave it to God. You don't want to unearth, you don't want to dig deep, because that's very difficult work. It's work. And for you, the work was done by Jesus on the cross. I'm saying that very ironically, because Jesus was a feminist. He didn't slut shame. He just told people, yo, look out for yourself. Because he was warning women about the same men who would have him crucified. Ladies, dig deep for yourself. For yourself. No one is coming to save you. Half the reason why we have as many problems as we do as women is because we have wounds we haven't healed. We have patterns that have been modeled for us that are horrible. One of the things I thank God for, and in this present moment, like I mean it with my whole soul and bone marrow and chest and cartilage and everything in between, including synovial fluid and cerebrospinal fluid. Everything in me, even this waste protein keratin, thanks God that I was raised by a single mother. I am so grateful that I was raised by a single mom. I am so grateful that I saw my grandma go to work and then go do business. I am so grateful that I saw my aunts, my closest aunts. One was a nurse and then a matron, and now is an emergency room nurse abroad, and another is a top earner, has done a lot of work in software satellite type company. I don't know, it's technical, it's tech, it's IT, and she's an overachiever. My mom as well, my other aunt as well, my grandma as well. And these women, by the way, have been punished by society, sometimes by women for not being married, sometimes by men for being single. Like, it's such a terrible thing. And I remember even when I looked at a conversation by the Slum Flower, where someone had shared with her, look at how men are so quick to shame women for being strippers or exotic dancers or paid sex workers, or like they're very quick to have opinions women for procuring abortions. They will, oh, and women for being single moms. Imagine, it's even our fault. Very little to no accountability to the men who have caused the situation. For instance, we say that prostitution is the oldest trade. Willing buyer, willing seller. It would not exist if there were no men to finance it. And I think as a stick in the eye of men who talk like that, Rahab is the genealogy of Jesus. And women like Lydia financed the gospel ministry of Paul. And and Ruth and Naomi, and the mental gymnastics they went through to land Boaz. Amongst other stories, Deborah telling a whole king, so you want me to take the glory? Because I will take it. And scared old king goes like, yo, fight for us. That's in that era. So why is it that we are convinced that our sole purpose on earth is to be a wife and a mother, and there are women in the Bible who are fighting in battle and financing the gospel? And Ellen White, especially me, for me, it's the Adventist women. I can't even with you sometimes. What makes you think that's your highest calling? And yet our prophet is a woman who almost single-handedly, almost, I know she had helpers, she's written books. She's one of the most celebrated American writers. How many of her books have you read? How much James Baldwin have you read? What is it about? No, it's a curse. I was going to ask, and now I know. And your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. He's doing a good job of it. One woman is killed in Germany every day. I can't get over that statistic. Femicide is at an all-time high in Kenya. In the UK, I think it's every 2.3 days a woman is killed. Let's just say Giselle, the lady who was raped by over 50 men and her husband recorded it, they've finally been found guilty after all this while. And yet, the big magazines, the Top Who and What, the I will not mention them, don't have her on the cover. And not just her, we don't even have the women of Sudan who've unalived themselves because they'd rather die with dignity than get raped. We don't have anyone from the Congo. We don't have anyone from Kenya, including but not limited to the activists, the journalists, the heads of organizations like Usikimye, which speak up on and defend the rights of and bring to safety women and girls who have gone through gender-based violence. No, because in the world we live in, the true heroes are the people who make money. We still live in a world where Elon Musk is celebrated as a marker of success. Do you know there are people who have decided, I'm not doing business within 2025? If I ask you who you aspire to be like, and one of the people you mention is that man, I'm not interested in anything you have to say. Because you'd have to be a very self-hating black person to find that person aspirational. Like, there are lessons we can pick from the art of war and from the 48 laws of power, but as a human being, I don't want to be anyone's villain story. And that's why I'm going to be closing this. Women, understand this. Nicki Minaj will not rape me. Megan Thee Stallion will not rape me. She's also not likely to withhold my pay. I don't know. Even I have worked for some scary women. I've worked for women who have been the start of my I will never work for people who are like or sound like, which is why I don't mess around with religious people who are overly religious. I don't sign them up as Christian. I mean, as Christians, tells you what I ascribe to. I don't sign them up as clients and I don't do business with them. I don't. If I say hi to you and I'm like, hey, how are you doing? And you say blessed and highly favored, I can't deal with you. If I bring up the LGBTQ plus community and you make a face, if you believe in the universe and I bring up God and you make a face, because I'm cool with atheists, not all of them. The ones who respect our differences, yes. Because I've had some really dope atheist and agnostic friends. Not the ones who have t-shirts that read, pray for me, I'll think for you, because you're trying to poke at Christians all the time because someone hurt you. I'm dealing with people who are just human beings who are kind for free, or who just, they're like, look, we're all struggling out here. Let's just sprinkle a little kindness, sprinkle, sprinkle. So if you're one of those people, cool. Let's engage, let's meet, let's chat. If you want to tone police, ask me to explain why I'm only wearing a t-shirt and shorts. Someone had the audacity to actually tell me I was naked and where is my dignity. Fought the urge to go like, do you dress me? Are you my mother? Then be quiet. I decided I didn't have the energy to fight that day. I had not slept enough. I deleted all of them because men are not my primary audience. But ladies, let's learn to go about life with the audacity of a man, especially a cishet white man. Because even when they're not the most good looking, best traveled, moneyed, they still have to go after what they want. And half the effort is trying. Statistically, women don't usually apply for jobs unless they meet a certain quota of qualifications. Women don't ask for help. Women chronically underprice their packages. Women don't ask for what they want. They automatically expect men to guess what they're thinking because all the stupid soap operas and princess stories. So please like yourself enough to apply for that job out of the country. Please like yourself enough to stop funneling money home before you have set up an emergency fund, knowing that if you got sick today, there's no one in that home that you're financing who will take you to hospital and foot the bill and care for you while you're sick. Stop saying yes to things you want to say no to, including but not limited to hangouts with people who drain you. And especially in this festive season, don't do it, sis. If you can't, I'm spending my holidays working on a number of things. Paid work. I just landed gigs yesterday, so paid work, school work, thesis work. I was having that conversation with my child today, like, yeah, I can't come home yet because I have homework until January. And then I'm also doing internal work and I'm spending the holidays with people who can't travel home. And we'd made plans months ago and I tried to pull out because I wanted to go spend time with my aunt and her family. But then I'm kind of a key part of the meal preparation and that's not going to work. So learn how to just say, you know what, change of plans. I have to stay because that pays my rent in January. I have so much to tell you, ladies. I have so much to tell you that I have kept in my heart, like Mary, the mother of Jesus, because we are out here dying of autoimmune diseases because we just constantly say yes and give and give and give, and then we wind up with inflammatory diseases. Let me not mention them one by one. Just say no. If you struggle with saying no, talk to someone about it. Pay a coach like myself, pay a therapist, pay someone. Why? Because that's investing in yourself. Take this from someone who struggles to not give all the time. And now I have surrounded myself with people who don't just take, they're also generous. And now we are building together. And we are honest with each other. Like, this person is my trigger. That's the ex you need to keep me away from. This is the thing I spend on too much. These are my, when I'm emotional eating, this is the thing. I'll send you an SOS when this happens. And even I have gotten offers from girlfriends. They're like, send me an SOS if you find yourself wanting to send money to this person because you feel like they need, and you need to be reminded that this is not a need, it's a want. And so if I am in a support group and I'm a coach, and if I am in therapy and I'm a coach, and if I, as a nutrition and wellness coach, have a coach for those things, whomst are you not to have one? Get the book, invest in yourself, treat yourself well, say no when you can't. And if that's difficult to do, get help, because if you don't, worst case scenario, you wind up with an illness that's killing you slowly from the inside out because of years of saying no when you wanted to say yes, and years of saying yes when you wanted to say no. Or on your deathbed, as a nurse to a nurse to dying people once confessed in a book she's written, some of the top regrets people have, one of the top three is that saying no when you wanted to say yes, and not trying more, not putting yourself out there, not going after that dream. We're headed into the new year. Risk it. Money is paper. Pesa ni karatasi. Like, I've lost my life savings and I've started to recover that money. I've lost family, I've lost connections with people. I used to think, oh my God, I'll die. When I told you guys I am an incredibly strong person, it's because I survived that. There's not, even the zombie apocalypse, I will survive. Yeah, so just like yourself enough to invest in yourself. Put that, it's here. Follow your dreams, they know the way. That fire that's burning inside you, that thing people are constantly telling you, you're really good at this. Oh my gosh, I would pay you to do this for me. The thing people keep coming to you for free. That service, you're good with money, you're good at helping people put up business plans or put together thoughts and ideas. And that's the thing that you can monetize. It's called intellectual property. You could sell it as a course. And then all those friends you've been helping for free, they all give you testimonials. That is your social proof for your social media pages. But go after it, go after the dreams. I'm now a mentor for young people in business, and I love it. And I'm especially looking out for the young women, because they literally sat there. One of them told me, where were you when I needed this advice? I told her, sis, at your age, I had lost my first 6 figures in a business. I am here to make sure you don't lose the next one like I did. And do I have any regrets? No. Because I got to live at the coast of Kenya for a year. I got to make beautiful connections. I got to learn about myself. I got to go to the ocean every day. And now there is nothing I will not spend for a trip, except if my child needs something. Then I will sacrifice. But even then, I'll stay home and do something vacation-y, because I'm planning to do something in January. During this festive season, I have a mini vacation planned, but for now, it's learning to say no and following your dreams. It's the stuff of life. Do it. I dare you. My housemate has gone back to sleep, so I need to be quiet. Stay happy and healthy. Someone tell Dr. Mike that I am using his phrase so that he can like my videos, and then I'll be happy.